fight fans? This is Crazy Kevin, and I'm here with Dustin Lampros. Dustin, how we doing?
Doing great, Kevin. Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, no problem at all. So, Dustin, last time we saw you was in Shamrock FC. We were just talking a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your next fight you got lined up.
Well, right now I'm supposed to be headlining the next Shamrock FC 354 May 10th. It's the night before the UFC St. Louis card, May 11th. And hopefully here soon I can lock in an opponent, and it should be a pretty good show. We're in hopes that Dana White and Sean Shelby, the matchmaker, are supposed to be in town and come by and watch. So hopefully that all goes as planned.
Nice. That was actually going to be my next question. With that being said, you've been on a little bit of a win streak. Do you think just a win in general can maybe get you back in the UFC, or do you think it has to be in some sort of like spectacular fashion?
Well, from my understanding, there's nothing that will get me just signed. I don't think it would matter if I went 15-0 if that they would sign me. From my understanding, from talking to my management, the only way to get into the UFC is short notice or on the Contender Series. And since I already did tough, originally they were saying I wouldn't have to do Contender Series just to stay ready for short notice. But unfortunately, we've been staying ready and waiting, and time's been going by, and there just hasn't really been too many opportunities. One, for the fact that, I am a 35er, but making 35 on a week's notice isn't really realistic for me unless I was, fighting that week or something. So I've been having to wait for like a 45 replacement, but there just hasn't really been too many opportunities for that. And anytime I've been called saying, hey, there's an opening on this date, can you make weight? I've said yes. I've been ready. I said yes. And then it just kind of like 3 different times the opponent actually pulled out himself. So they would need an opponent, and then they would ask for a later date or something. Therefore, it would, X me out of getting the short notice call. So yeah, I don't know. I wish I had that answer for you. I wish they would say, hey, beat this guy or do this, do that, and you're in. But from my understanding, it's short notice or Contender Series right now. So.
Well, that's not the first time I've heard that with guys like you that are right on the cusp of UFC. You mentioned that the UFC is mainly looking for like short notice or Contender Series. Why wouldn't they just sign you outright? Why does it have to be a short notice to get in there?
No idea. I guess because the ball's in their court. I guess because there's no other promotion that's really competing with them. So they know that they can just have us sit around and wait for them when they need it. It's the same reason why they don't, I hate to talk bad about, I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking bad about the UFC, but it's like, they have a card in St. Louis, and instead they could easily fill up one whole side of the card with all UFC St. Louis fighters, and they don't do that. And why is that? It's because they don't need to. They're going to sell out regardless, and, they do what works best for them, and rightfully so. It's their show. They pull the strings, and you know what? If we don't like it, then go somewhere else, right? And I agree with that. And I understand it, it sucks. I ain't saying it, I wish they would just sign me out, right? Like, if they told me, hey, you go 10-0, we're going to sign you, like that would be awesome. I would aim for that. But then, I went 8-0 and management said, oh, just wait. We're going to wait. Don't take another fight. We'll wait for short notice. Well, I couldn't wait forever. So I ended up taking another one, my last fight, and went 9-0. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just doing everything possible, and hopefully, it gets recognized somehow.
Right. Now, when you compete in Shamrock FC, tell us a little bit more about that promotion, how you like fighting over there.
It's a great promotion. They don't get a lot of light shined on them because they're out in the middle of the, Midwest, in the middle of the map, and they're not signed with Fight Pass. They had Fight TV. Now I think we're with Thriller. They had different deals, and I think Fight Pass just wasn't branching out there, I guess. And when they originally started, because Shamrock FC has been around for a long time. Shamrock FC is on their 354 show. So if you compare that to any other regional show, they're blowing everybody out of the water. There's no one else out there that has as many shows, and I like it. It's about an hour, the venue is about an hour or hour and a half from my hometown. So it's nice. I get to come back at least relatively close and be around my family and fight in front of them. But, I like it. They work well with me. I fought with them as an amateur, and it just kind of made sense to stay there. And me living in South Florida training, I don't get to see my family much. So it always gives me an excuse to go back home when I get to fight for them,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, another thing, I was looking at your record too. Coming off the UFC when you're on the Ultimate Fighter, and then you were facing a couple of these guys on Shamrock FC. What was your confidence level like going on the Ultimate Fighter and then having to face Shamrock FC the competition?
Well, so a lot of people don't realize this. If you look, my last fight for Shamrock before the Tough Show was 2019. And I had COVID hit, and I had 3 different fights scheduled with Shamrock, and their events had to pull out because of COVID. So then I got word I was going to be on the Ultimate Fighter show before it ever got announced. And they told me not to fight. And then it was supposed to air. We were supposed to start filming in January. It didn't start filming till April. Didn't air till June. And you can't fight until the show's over. So I had almost 2 years, just short of 2 years of a layoff before the Tough Show. But I thought it was picture perfect. I thought everything was meant to be, and I still believe it was. I was excited. Like going on the Tough Show, what backfired for me was being too confident, too relaxed, too comfortable. I didn't think there was a person on that show that could touch me. I really felt that way, and I still felt that way. I think me being so relaxed, it was probably one of the first fights I wasn't really nervous. I was like, yo, I haven't fought in 2 years. I'm so excited. This is meant to be. It's a perfect opponent, someone who wanted to strike with me, who I had better ground than, and going on that show, I was just overly confident, just too on my high horse. That's why I think I got caught fighting with my hands down, backing up a guy like him, knowing that he's dangerous when guys back him up. And that's the only thing he has is a hard punch. And it's crazy. Volkanovski on that show, said this is the only way you'll lose. When we were training for it, is you cornering him and him throwing, like a defensive, pressured punch. And yeah, man, I fighting at Shamrock, it was good. A lot of people look at my record and they see like, oh, you fought, this guy or that guy, or a lot of people don't realize my first pro fight, my third pro fight, my fourth pro fight, and my sixth pro fight were all day of replacements, all scheduled fights with guys with 3-2 records or whatever their records were. And then they would pull out for some reason. And then I sell 200 something tickets. I'm not just going to not fight, like they're going to have to find me someone. And on a day's notice, you're not going to find anybody of crazy quality, to fight someone who's been in a full camp. Like it just doesn't happen. So, a lot of people have it misconstrued on the sense of, was he wasn't ready for it. I was ready for the Tough Show. I think if anything, that was the best thing that could have happened to me, how that ended, just because how I fight and how confident I am, I think that Tough Show went exactly how it was supposed to go. And it was the best thing that could have happened to me.
What was something that Volkanovski might have taught you on the show that might have changed your perspective on something?
Just with striking, just like distance and feet work. He's really big on that. For 6 weeks in training, that's all we did in the beginning of each session was working on our our distance and being in a position to strike at all times.
Sure. Now, with you fighting as well too on the Ultimate Fighter, it's only a 2-round fight. With that being said, what differences do you make in training compared to like a 3-round fight?
Nothing. I don't treat it any differently. It's the same thing with like my last 2 were 5-round fights. They were scheduled for 5 rounds, and I train the same. If anything, I just do 5-5s when I do circuits or anything. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, with you being on the show, is there any behind the scenes stuff that maybe a fan might not know about?
No, I mean, on my end, not necessarily. I had a lot of obstacles going into it. That was my first time in Vegas. I flew out there weighing 150 pounds, and 2.5 weeks later, when I made my cut, I was weighing 150, 151. I didn't lose anything. Like I could not sweat there. It was so hard. Here's another thing. If you watch some of the close-ups of my interviews, like throughout the show, I had a massive cold sore breakout all over my lips because how dry it was and how like I was depleting my body. And I'm surprised they let me fight. They didn't even say nothing about it. I must have hit it well. Like if you go back and watch, you know, there's tons of little things that just kept happening. But in the fight itself, I felt absolutely incredible. And yeah, man, I have no excuses for how the fight went out. Other than saying, you know, I was too confident, fought my hands down, but nothing behind the scenes really though. There was a time Dana White gave me $1,000 at the coaches challenge because when the coaches came to the house before we left on the buses to go to the coaches challenge, there was Hollerhead whiskey sitting on the table, and it was originally empty. And I just one day out of boredom was sitting there talking to someone and had an orange Gatorade or something, filled it up. Well, this was never aired or showed anywhere. I posted it on my Instagram, but I think I have it archived now. I told Volkanovski and them that it was, you know, there was maybe that much Hollerhead at the end of the bottle, but the bottle was full and the rest was Gatorade. And I was jacking with them and I was like, oh, watch me chug this. And then I told them like it wasn't. Well, they go, oh, wait. They're like, wait for Ortega's team to get here and then jack with Ortega. So we're sitting there and I looked at Brian. I was like, I bet you won't drink that. He's like, nah. He's like, I bet you won't. And I'm like, I bet I'll chug it. And I smashed the whole thing and he recorded it and sent it to Dana. And Dana come up to me in the coaches challenge is like, yo, I saw you chug that Hollerhead. Here's you whipped out a bunch of money, you know, flipped me $1,000 and said, yo, that was awesome, you know? So that was cool. But yeah, that was probably the only thing that ever really happened behind the scenes that nobody knows.
No, that's pretty sick. I definitely didn't know about that. And that's definitely pretty cool. He gave you $1,000 to do that. With that being said, too, with you in the house, living in a sick mansion like that, what was that kind of like, being in a mansion for a couple of weeks? Then on top of that, what is it like to live in there with a bunch of fighters that like are getting ready to fight or compete against one day?
It was cool. It wasn't like what I thought, like growing up, like when you watch it. I mean, I shouldn't say it wasn't what I thought. I think just times changed and I was around a bunch of mature people. You know, everybody on there was pretty mature. No one was on some bullshit. Everybody was there for a reason. Everybody was locked in. And yeah, it was cool. I mean, I was just locked in, man. I was so excited about the opportunity. You know, it was a dream come true. And nothing really bothered me. I was like, yo, but obviously there was things that bothered, like, you know, the whole not sweat and breaking out cold sores, like little bullshit that kept on popping up in the way. But other than that, like living in the house itself was cool. I mean, every single night you get to write on a sheet what you want, like doesn't matter what it is. And overnight the production team goes and fills up your cubby with whatever it is. So another thing that wasn't aired, here's one more thing. So after my fight, because even though like I wasn't ever out cold, like I didn't register anything. Like after I got hit, everything after that right hand was I don't remember any of it. So like that's why when I was leaning against a cage and Herzog was like, you're all right, you just got rocked, and I yelled fuck, because that's when I realized like, oh, I lost. Like I thought I was like, up until that point I had Vincent hurt, you know, like I rocked him a couple of times. I was like, yo, I'm winning this fight. Like this is my fight. I didn't think for a second he was gonna beat me. So when Herzog's against my holding his hand on my chest saying, you're all right, you're right, I'm like, oh, I'm like, I lost, you know? So that was really surprising. And I didn't know how I lost. And they didn't show me a video or nothing. I just had to hear people. So for the week after, I was losing it. I was in my head. I was like freaking out. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like they wouldn't show me a replay until Volk like got me a video of it. And so I was real depressed, right? And I had like 4 weeks left in the house. You know, I was the first fight. And so I started just comfort eating. And I got up to like 170, like from 135. Like my boy Patty picked me up from the airport and he didn't even recognize me. Like they actually were going to make a little segment on it, like, you know, a little part of one of the episodes. But I hid from them. I didn't want them to like see. I was eating in the cupboard. Like I was waking up in the middle of the night eating ice cream. I didn't care. I was like, screw it, you know? But yeah, after I lost though, it kind of sucked. I was kind of like, whatever. And then I just like, that was one thing though. I realized that was a big turning point in my career, in my life though, is that I realized without having the phone stuff, like life goes on, you know, like I was like, don't matter, you know, like life goes on, like everyone's going to lose, you know, and obviously thankful for me, it was a lesson and not a loss on my actual record. So yeah, man, that was crazy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's definitely a wild ride. That's pretty crazy too. They didn't show you the highlight for a while. You just kind of had to like sit there and think about it. I was just thinking about that. That's definitely crazy because I've talked.
Bro, that was bothering me, man.
What's that?
Said it was bothering me.
Oh yeah, yeah, it would bother me too. I definitely understand that. Now, one other thing I like to cover too is that not only are you a 9-0 fighter, you also I've seen on your Instagram you try to do some stuff like at Walmart, or you try and catch some of these predators as well too. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that too?
Yeah, man. About a year ago, me and one of my good friends, Ryan Montgomery, decided to start catching online child predators in public, and we decided to use it at random Walmart one time, and it worked. Like in the sense of all the Walmart security people, they were cool with it. You know, and once we found out the Delray Beach cops where we were doing it at were cool with it, we just kind of kept it doing a thing. Kept, you know, don't change what's not broken, you know, or don't fix what's not broken. So we just kept doing them there. But yeah, we just he's been in that world behind the scenes for a while, being like an info guy for big predator groups, and he brought it to my attention, and we were just sitting there one day and I'm like, let's go do it ourselves. And he's like, if you're really about, you know, confronting them, I'll do it, you know? So we just started doing it. And, yeah, man, we catch online child predators. Our group's called 561 PC. That's the area code and predator catchers. But you know, I've had people in my life that were victims of predators when they were children. And so when I seen the opportunity, and outside of fighting, you know, I don't do anything besides train. I was like, and at the time, you know, I didn't have a girlfriend or anything. And so I was like, shit, let's go. Like, I got time. Like, let's go do it. And we didn't post it at first. And then it was the cop that was like, yo, you need to expose these guys. So we started posting it. And as soon as I posted it, all the biggest MMA sites, journals, like, blew up with it. And yeah, man, we've been at a standstill the past 5 months, 6 months, just because of certain situations with our decoys. That a decoy is the person that's online chatting with them. But just as of now, we just got a new decoy, and actually this Saturday, hopefully the predator ain't out there, he knows, but this Saturday we have a catch lined up to catch another child predator. So yeah, something that I really want to keep going. And you know, you'd be surprised of the messages I get, hundreds of messages on people sharing their life story on how they were victims or their experiences. So I know I'm doing a good thing, and yeah, man, it's a blessing that God's able to use me to try to make a difference, even if it's a small difference.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I definitely think that's a good thing you're doing. It's really awesome that people are reaching out. So definitely keep doing what you're doing. Dustin, I'm a martial arts instructor. I've been teaching for about 6 years now, and I've been training for about 20 years now in Taekwondo, and I have about 150 students. With that being said, my question to you is, what advice would you give to those guys to keep coming into the gym and to keep getting better every single day?
Well, exactly what you're saying in your question. Just keep coming in. Consistency, man. There's nothing that beats consistency. If you do something long enough and consistent enough, I don't care how bad you are at it, you're gonna get a little good, right? I don't care how unathletic you are, how unskilled you are. If you stay consistent and you keep showing up, you can't possibly get anything but progress. You know, that's my advice. And also my advice is low kicks, leg kicks save lives.
Absolutely. No, I love it, man. Definitely some good advice. Dustin, last message to the fans that are going to be watching this video, and thank you again for coming on.
No, thank you, and my apologies again for you know, delaying this chat with you. Things that happen out of my control, but thank you so much. Last message is, guys, stay tuned for my next fight. Hopefully here soon I'll be able to release the confirmed opponent and everything about it. And yeah, if you're out there and you're wanting to get into martial arts, just like he just kind of asked, or like you asked, show up. just walk through the door every single day, and little by little, you're gonna get good and fall in love with it. But yeah, chase your dreams and put God first.
Oh, man. Dustin, thank you so much for coming on. Some great advice, and we're looking forward to seeing your fight. And thanks again.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on, and I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck in the future.
Thanks a lot, man. Hopefully we connect again in the future after your fight.
Yeah, see it.
See you later, my man.